Today, we're going to look at stage 3, which is the grandfather clock. And so far, we have covered in detail stages 1 and 2 of the 10 stages of the soul. Stage 1 is the marketplace, which presents our material world of exemplary learning. That's the marketplace where we all are at this moment. And stage 2 is that of the dripping tap, which represents achievement of deeper, singular focus of enlightened thought, learned in the marketplace. Now, we have released videos on both stages 1 and 2, and so I hope you've had a chance to view them. And if you haven't, please do so that you're completely up to speed. So our topic for today is stage 3, the stage of the grandfather clock. And there's much spiritual knowledge we can glean from this stage. Remember that the more we know about each stage, the better we can prepare ourselves to reach them and rise beyond. This is why we are dedicating one full masterclass to each stage and trying to understand all the symbols that each stage reveals, because they show us a practical pathway to growth, to spiritual growth. Now, the first stage of the marketplace is governed by time and change. The second stage of the dripping tap is also governed by time and change. The third stage, which is symbolized by the grandfather clock, also embodies time and change. So we're still very connected to this world. But the perspectives learned at stage 3 are a lot more elevated than in stages 1 and 2. Now, I invited our dear angels, two dear angels, Cyrus and Luminous, to join our discussion today, because we can really do with their wisdom today, as we explore some of the mystical aspects of stage 3. I asked Cyrus, how would you best characterize the third stage of the grandfather clock? And Cyrus replied, the third stage is a very profound one. It is the gateway for the soul to its next chapter of ascension. Next chapter, not next stage, next chapter. You can think of this stage as a turning point of a very significant nature. Now, I was very intrigued by the words gateway and turning point. So I asked Cyrus, I said, can you help us understand what they mean? And Cyrus replied, let us look closely at the symbols that reside in the grandfather clock. Firstly, the clock has a housing. Secondly, it has a pendulum that swings from side to side, each swing representing 1 second. Thirdly, he said it has a face, also known as the crown. Next, its face has 2 hands, an hour and a minute hand. Next, it has rotating gear wheels in the housing, which we cannot see. And finally, the ticking of the clock represents time, which is unseen to the human eye. Now, all these 6 symbols have a special spiritual significance that we are going to explore today. Think about it, just a clock, but there's so much to it. Now, Luminous said, I picked out a nice image of a grandfather clock. He said, can you share it? So I'm going to do just that for a moment. So I'm going to try and share my screen. Bear with me, please. There it is. Do you see the grandfather clock? Yes, everybody? Okay. We do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So look at this clock. So this is the housing, the wooden casing. Then you got the pendulum here behind glass. Then you've got the watch face. This is the symbol of the third stage, okay? So just capture this image in your mind, because we're going to really dive into each aspect of this symbol. Okay? Okay, so we're back, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now we've seen the image. And let us start with the first one, which is the housing of the clock. This is what Luminous says. He says the housing is a tall, beautifully carved wooden box, lacquered with perfection. He says it has a glass panel behind which you can see the pendulum swinging. The housing also has another glass panel behind which sits the clock's face. So there are two glass panels. So what does the housing represent? Luminous asked me. What is your understanding? I replied, the housing of the clock represents containment. We encountered similar containment in stage 2, where the bucket or pail in which the water drips represents containment. Therefore, each drop of water that falls into the bucket is, in inverted commas, contained. During stage 2, we discussed different forms of containment in our material world. So I'll do a very quick recap of some examples which I covered in stage 2. What contains us? What constrains us? What encages us? Firstly, we have a physical body. Our spirit, which is mighty and eternal and free, is contained in the body. It is encaged and reduced down to 5 senses. And if one is particularly apt, 6 senses. Next is our circumstances. They restrict us and contain us in different ways. Then there is time, which needs no further explanation. We're always constrained by time. There is economics and resources. There is our relationships, which needs no explanation. Then there is love, which is beautiful, but also becomes a form of engagement when we cling too tightly to the ones we love. Next, we have geography, that physically limits where we are and where we can be. Our health can be a big restrictive force. Those of us who are not healthy can be severely encaged by our illnesses. And our loved ones also suffer encagement with us. So the full list is explained and discussed in the stage 2 video. So please do view it. So my dear friends, we are all encaged in some way, shape, or form. None of us is free. We are all contained. And in stage 2, the bucket is the symbol of our containment. And the concept of containment does not end at stage 2. It continues from stage 2 into stage 3, because the housing of the grandfather clock is also containment. Wait a minute, Luminous says. He says, while you're correct, there is a difference between the type and nature of containment between stages 1 and 2. How is this so, I asked. Luminous replied, the bucket in stage 2 can fill up with water, and it will overflow when there is no more room left. Therefore, the bucket in stage 2 is a symbol of the finite. It has a certain finite capacity beyond which it will overflow. However, the housing in the grandfather clock in stage 3 never fills up. The housing is the symbol of the infinite. Therefore, stage 3 reveals a transition from the finite to the infinite. So it's a transition from the finite to the infinite. It's a huge transition. This is a profound transition and a great achievement for souls that have made it to stage 3. Luminous continued, now let us consider the glass in the housing for a moment. The glass protects the swinging pendulum and the clock face. The glass is transparent with pure clarity. It lets you see the pendulum and the clock face, but it does not let you touch them or get to them. Where else have you come across a glass of this nature? We encountered it in the parable of light. Thank you, guys. This is fantastic. So the parable of the light, let me very briefly refresh our minds on it. The parable of the light of the Creator is as if there is a niche, and in the niche, a lamp. The lamp is covered with glass. The glass shines like a brilliant star. lit by the oil of the sacred tree, the olive, neither of the east nor of the west. This oil is well nigh luminous, even though fire has scarcely touched it. Light upon light does the Creator guide unto his light those whom he wills. Now there are so many interpretations, and I've covered this in detail in the first video of Spiritual Quest series. But let me encapsulate what my interpretation was. When I heard the parable of light and I could not quench my thirst of understanding, I meditated it for 18 years. I read as much as I could, but nothing really gave me an answer that I thought, yes, that appeals to my mind of scientific logic. Then one day when I was not thinking about it, I saw the parable of the light, that there is a niche. The niche is in the center of my forehead. The niche normally in old homes, Arabian homes, is at the top of a building. It's an alcove and they put a lamp in it. But the niche here is in the center of my forehead. And in the niche, a lamp. So the lamp is the light of my Creator, the life force, the life energy that gives me life. The lamp is covered with glass. So the glass is showing me, allowing me to see the light. It's giving me a goal, but it does not let me touch the eternal flame. It does not let me reach the eternal flame. The glass is also a symbol of the earth because it's made from silica, and therefore we are seeking the light in absolutely the right place. So the lamp covered with glass, the glass shines like a brilliant star. So as I live life and my light and knowledge grow, I shine brighter like that brilliant star. Remember, exemplary living, I become an example of light. So the glass shines like a brilliant star, lit by the oil of the sacred tree, the olive. And I realized that the sacred tree was my circulation system. It is the shape of a tree. Every single veinlet on one side will have a corresponding veinlet on the other side. Therefore, it is neither of the east nor of the west. The most perfectly balanced tree we will ever find is a circulation system. And what is the shape of the heart? Olive. So lit by the oil of the sacred tree, and neither of the east nor of the west. This oil is luminous, even though fire has scarcely touched it. So this oil is flowing through my body. Even if you take my blood, which is circulating when I am alive, you filter my blood. It's plasma. It's a luminous fluid. And then this concept of the luminous fluid, we have gone into great detail in part 1 of Spiritual Quest. So this oil is well nigh luminous, even though fire has scarcely touched it. Light upon light does the Creator guide unto his light those whom he chooses. So light upon light means stage upon stage. Today we're talking stage 3. There are 10 stages. And each one of us is striving to go from stage 1 to 2 to 3 all the way to 10. But it is by the grace of the Creator, those whom he wills. So we have to be extremely humble. We don't control the process, but we seek, we do our best, and we pray that we may be granted that ascension to the 10th stage and to oneness and unity with our Creator. So that's what the parable of light says. Now, coming back here to the stage 3, the glass on the grandfather clock, the glass on the housing. The glass in the lamp. The glass in the lamp in the parable is pure and transparent. As I said earlier, it lets you see the eternal flame but does not let you touch it. The glass in the grandfather clock serves a similar purpose. I asked Luminous, why does glass repeatedly appear in such a spiritual context? Because in the grandfather clock, it covers the pendulum and it covers the clock face. And Luminous said, that's a deep question. He said, in your world, usually when you humans can see something, you feel you can automatically get to it. You feel you can automatically reach it, touch it, pick it up, get to it. Your hand reaches out to what you want, touches it, and picks it up. You have control over the process. Luminous said, in the spiritual realm, you have no control. Even if something is revealed to you, it is not in your power to reach it or touch it or pick it up. The glass is a barrier, and that represents this important difference. It lets you see, but not reach. It reminds you that you have no control. However, the fact that you can see your goal through the glass invokes a desire or motivation to reach what you are seeing. That motivation makes you sit in complete humility and search through meditation. Because you know the goal. You have seen it behind the glass. You have seen the brilliant star. So those seekers of the real truth work hard to reach what they are seeking. And their success depends solely upon the will of the Creator. Remember, the parable of the light says, light upon light does the Creator guide unto his light those who he wills. It only happens by his will. So Luminous said, in the spiritual realm, you may be shown the goal, but it is not within your immediate reach or control. It is something that awaits to be realized, in inverted commas, realized. The spiritual journey is all about realization, every step of the way. If you seek the self and you are blessed with success, you gain self-realization. So that's the symbolism of the glass. Always remember that, Luminous says. You control nothing, but you can search for everything. I repeat that. You control nothing, but you can search for everything. And you can realize everything if you are so blessed. Luminous, the angel of light, shared such a powerful message with us here. Souls that reach the third stage have learned humility and absence of control. Those are two hallmarks, humility and absence of control. And these characteristics are essential for the soul to progress higher. Cyrus now joins in. He says, there is a soul I have been guiding. Her name is Elif, and she has achieved the third stage. As her teacher, I had a conversation with her after she departed the earth. And I will relate to you what she said. Elif had struggled a great deal to get past the first stage, the level of the marketplace, where she was so often lost, misguided, and immersed in the material plane. It took many lifetimes for her to refine her focus down to enlightened thought. This ability took her to the second stage, the dripping tap, which releases droplet after droplet of water, the essence of life, into a bucket. The tap was the gateway to the flow of the water. It was the gateway to her intellect, which she had gradually accessed and developed in the marketplace through meditation, prayer, conscious spiritual learning, ethical living, and more. When she reached the second stage, her intellect had evolved and sharpened enough to enable focused flow of enlightening thoughts, which are the droplets. But towards the end of the second stage, she still had to struggle to transition from the seen to the unseen. That was a huge leap forward. It took a great deal of meditation, prayer, refinement of her thoughts to go from the level of the visible droplets to the level of the unseen time of the ticking grandfather clock. While most souls kept returning to stages 1 and 2, Elif was one of the few that broke past the barrier of the seen to embrace the unseen. And she was elated with her success. So I asked her to share her understanding of the grandfather clock face, which was an aspect she had worked hard upon to grasp and master. It was not easy for her. So she beamed and replied, each person has a face through which he or she can be recognized, experienced, and understood. Cyrus said to Elif, recognized, experienced, and understood. I like that description of the purpose of a face. Elif recited from the parable of light. She said, the parable of the light of the Creator is as if there is a niche. In the niche, a lamp. The lamp is covered with glass. The glass shines like a brilliant star. She said, I recognized that the niche was in the center of my forehead on my face. The lamp and its light were my life force, my Creator. The niche in my forehead was connected with my life force through an umbilical cord through which my life energy flowed. And when I reached the third stage, I was shown that the grandfather clock also has a face like mine. And this face is also connected to my Creator from the niche that is at the top center at the number 12. The top center of the clock face at the number 12 is the niche. The niche of the clock is identical to the niche on my forehead. And the umbilical cords that connects us with life force is also something we have in common. This cord is our linkage with the Creator. Elif said the clock face pointed me to my ultimate goal, which is union with the Creator. She continued, when I was in the marketplace, the symbol of the dripping tap and what it represented helped me to rise to stage 2, where I learned so much about my soul and its journey through constant use of my intellect. When I got to stage 3, the grandfather clock and its symbols led me to discover deeper truths about the power of my linkage with my Creator. The clock face, the niche, the umbilical cord, everything came alive for me, alive in inverted commas, alive for me in stage 3. She said, I saw glimpses of the light and the luminous oil that are described by the parable of light, for which I am ever grateful. Cyrus continued, he said, I asked Elif to relate some of the subtle dimensions of the clock face beyond life force. We understand life force. And Elif said, there are several subtle messages that the clock face conveys. Firstly, the clock moves in a circle, which is the symbol of the origin. I saw the zero circle in the clock face through that movement of its hands. And that zero circle is the circle of the origin. The zero circle represents the source of everything. She said, I fully understood the words of the scripture which says, say he, the Creator, is one. He is the origin, absolute, independent, the source of everything. She said, I realized that the Creator is oneness and that the absolute was the number 0 because all numbers originate from 0. Elif said, if there is no 0, there is nothing. So all creation emanates from the absolute, the zero circle. And now at stage 3, because I was part of the zero circle, I had gained powers of manifestation. She had gained powers of manifestation, being in that zero circle. So Cyrus asked Elif to elaborate further, and she said, several aspects exist within the clock that reveal these mystical truths. The first one is the pendulum, which swings back and forth constantly with precision, each swing representing 1 second of time. She said the pendulum is the gateway of the intellect. Just like in stage 2, the tap was the gateway. Next, she said the second hand that rotates around the clock face, the 2 hands, those being the hour and the minute hands. When I compare these features with the dripping tap in stage 2, I see a significant evolution in my spiritual understanding. And Cyrus said, and what is that? The tap in stage 2 was the gateway for the droplets to flow into the bucket. The tap in stage 2 represented the intellect, and the droplets it let through were my focused, enlightened thoughts. At stage 2, my intellect was still developing, but not refined to the level required at stage 3. Yes, it was developing, but it was not refined enough to the level I achieved at stage 3. Why do you think this is so? Cyrus asked Elif. She replied, because the tap lets droplets flow through one by one. But each drop is slightly different from the other. No two droplets are identical, so it's not perfect. Furthermore, the timing between each droplet falling in the bucket also varies a bit. It is not exact. One droplet and the second droplet don't have exactly the same interval. So she said, my access to my intellect in stage 2 was still in a form of development because it lacked precision. When I reached stage 3, she said, I gained this precision because the movement of the clock pendulum does not vary by even the smallest of margins. The pendulum is the gateway of my intellect, and it is absolutely precise. Therefore, stage 3 has brought me to a refined state of intellect. With this refinement comes an immense amount of power in my thoughts. I can now create and manifest whatever I seek in the marketplace. My thoughts are no longer ordinary. They have powers to create and manifest because of that completely refined intellect. Elif said, furthermore, the clock face has 2 hands that also move with precision, just like the pendulum does. However, compared to the fast-moving pendulum, their motion is slower as they circumambulate around the surface of the face of the clock. So when we look at their order of speed, the pendulum moves the fastest. Next is the minute hand, which moves slower. And finally, there is the hour hand, which moves the slowest. Now, why is that significant? Cyrus asked Elif. She replied, to understand this, let us reflect on the cycle of life for a moment. What is the cycle of life? Which I've shared with you many times before. The origin is light. Light brings life. Life brings experience. Experience brings knowledge. And knowledge is light. That is the full cycle of life. So the origin is light, which is my creator. Light brings life, which is what makes me alive, and that allows me to go out and experience this world. So life brings experience. And when I reflect it, I learn, or my experiences, it becomes knowledge. And knowledge is light. And that is the full circle and purpose of life, gaining knowledge, gaining light. And Elif says that what is significant is the fact that my understanding of this cycle and how it works grew deeper and more powerful as I rose from stage to stage. She said, when I was in the marketplace, the cycle of life was just words in my mind. Then in one lifetime, she said, when I lived in South America, I came across a spiritual teacher. At a time in my life when I was totally lost and drowned in intoxicants, my world was dark, very dark. This teacher came. He became my spiritual guide and changed my life. You know, when you say the pupil is ready, the teacher appears. This teacher came to her. His words echoed truths in my soul that existed within me but had never reached my mind. So these truths existed in her soul but never reached her mind. He taught me about the mind and the intellect. I had never heard about the intellect before that. And he patiently taught me how to use my intellect. He taught me about the cycle of life. At the time, I only understood the concept of experience. I could not grasp what and how experience becomes knowledge, which is light. I didn't have a clue. And he said, in the marketplace, there are valuable experiences and valueless ones. Seek the valuable ones always. To help me understand the difference between valuable and valueless experiences, he shared with me an analogy I will always remember. He said, think of each experience in your life as being like a marble. At the time in the marketplace, most of my experiences were based on plain nonsense and chaos. He called such experiences colorless marbles. And in my case at the time, most of my marbles were all colorless. He said colorless marbles are of very little value because you cannot derive true knowledge from them. Colorless marbles come from random experiences of conflict, gossip, negativity, envy, chaos. These are valueless experiences. They have practically no vibration. They are dead experiences, my teacher said. He said, you need to gain meaningful and valuable experiences, which are like golden marbles. These golden marbles can become knowledge through reflection and learning, because they are born from enlightened thought and inspiration. They have light and have a much higher vibration than the colorless marbles. As you reflect on the golden marbles and dig into their meaning, their vibration gets higher and higher until they become so high that they become light. And that is knowledge, the light of knowledge. Taking enlightened experiences, reflecting on them, learning from them, raising their vibration till they become light. That is the knowledge of light. And he said, the light of knowledge goes up to your soul and elevates you to higher stages of your journey. He said that our thoughts create events, which in turn create experiences. So enlightened thoughts that come through the intellect, the refined intellect, create events that bring enlightened experiences. That is the secret to spiritual success, he taught me. He taught me about the 10 stages of the soul, Elif said. He lit a flame, a hunger in my being to rise out of the marketplace and begin to ascend the higher stages. During that lifetime, before I met my teacher, I had barely 1 or 2 golden marbles in 100. Through his teachings and loving guidance, by the end of that lifetime, I had almost 30 golden marbles in 100, 30% valuable experiences. I had started using my intellect, meditating, praying, and living with a more enlightened awareness. And this completely changed the nature of the experiences I began to receive, because the events in my life changed drastically. Remember, my thoughts create events. Enlightened thoughts create enlightening events. His teachings took me to the 2nd stage, where I worked hard on my intellect. And by the time I completed my journey at the 2nd stage, I had almost 50 golden marbles in 100. So she was actually creating 50% of her experiences were those of value and 50 valueless. She said, my life was so fulfilled. My enlightened thoughts and experiences that came through my intellect created knowledge in leaps and bounds. I was growing daily in knowledge and light, Elif said, which carried me up to stage 3, the grandfather clock. The grandfather clock was pivotal for me. Why, you may ask? Because it showed me 3 important hallmarks. Firstly, the precise movement of the pendulum indicates that my intellect was fully refined, with sharply focused enlightened thought. Every movement of the pendulum was absolutely precise, with no variation at all. So was my intellect at this level. With such a powerful, refined intellect, I was now able to focus with clarity on my linkage word in my meditation, linkage word, which helped me rise higher and higher in meditation. She said, I am going to rely heavily on this focus to ascend through stages 4 and beyond. It's a golden gift. The next, she said, the minute hand reflected the flow of inspiration from the higher levels of my being through my intellect and then through the rest of my mind. This inspiration brings enlightened thoughts and decisions to my world. It creates enlightened experiences that become knowledge and light. The minute hand moves slower than the pendulum because the flow of inspiration is a slower process compared to what the pendulum is doing, what its purpose is. And finally, She said there is the hour hand that moves the slowest. And that is because the formation and flow of knowledge is a slow process. This is why the hour hand moves the slowest of all. But the hour hand completes the cycle of life perfectly, she said, by bringing through knowledge, which becomes light. And that light that flows upward through my highly refined intellect to my soul. This knowledge is what makes my soul shine brighter, Elif said. This knowledge is light. It is the purpose of my journey. She said, I started my journey like the ray of the sun. And as I gain knowledge, this ray gets brighter as I rise from stage to stage. And by the 10th stage, I, the ray, will be so bright that one cannot tell me apart from my Creator, my Source. This is my ultimate goal and prayer, Elif said, for which I am ever grateful. So Luminous stepped in and he said, let me quickly summarize what Elif said on the cycle of life in 3 simple points. He said the 3 moving parts of the grandfather clock and their motion indicate, number 1, refinement of intellect, which is the pendulum, 2, flow of inspiration from higher levels through the intellect down to the mind, which is the minute hand, and 3 is flow of knowledge that is derived from these experiences and inspirations, flow of knowledge upward to the life force, to the soul, which is the hour hand. So that was a beautiful explanation. But Cyrus had a few more points to add about Cyrus's realizations. He said, she also said, the hour hand is the slowest, but yields the most value, which is the light of knowledge. So it may be the slowest, but it yields the most value. And she said, this is the true power of patience, which grants immense spiritual and material rewards. Patience grants immense spiritual and material rewards. And that slowest hand, you have to be patient. She said that the hour hand, which moves the slowest, is also the smallest of the 3 hands. It's the smallest of the 3 hands, symbolizing humility. She said that with greater knowledge and light and spiritual stature comes deeper humility. And that's why the hour hand is the smallest. So humility, deep humility, is also a hallmark of the 3rd stage. She said that the 3rd stage was the gateway of her soul to an entirely new phase of her journey, which starts in stage 4. For this to be achieved, absolute humility is essential. Elif also said that everything on the face of the clock points to the origin. For example, the 2 hands on the face of the clock move in ever continuous circles. Even the gear wheels that reside in the housing hidden within the clock move precisely in continuous circles. She said this continuous circle and circular movement reveals that the origin is ever continuous. The Creator is ever continuous. There is no beginning and no end. She said next, the face of the clock is clear and transparent. It therefore represents pure honesty. Nothing can be hidden on the face of the clock. It is clear, transparent, and honest. Another hallmark of stage 3. People who are at the 3rd stage or higher project that honesty in the marketplace. Part of their karmic learning and growth comes from experiencing the happiness and light that flows from pure honesty. The material world may punish honesty, but the spiritual world greatly rewards honesty. And Elif says, I can attest to that. The spiritual world greatly rewards honesty. Cyrus said, these are all pearls of wisdom that Elif shared with me for all of you to learn from. He said, Elif has now been conceived. She has assumed her new body and is going to be born again in this world in a few months at the 4th stage. Her presence is going to be a great blessing in this world. And Cyrus said to me, he said, her last words to me were, by the time I completed my life at the 3rd stage, I had almost 70 golden marbles in 100. What a fulfilling life I had, for which I am eternally grateful. May a leaf be blessed always, Cyrus said. So now Luminous stepped in. We have learned a great deal from a leaf. What a beautiful soul. Luminous stepped in to share some of his thoughts on the third stage. He said, have you noticed that the grandfather clock chimes every hour? What does that mean? He said souls that are at the third stage call out to their fellow beings to follow the path of spiritual growth. They call out to their fellow beings to nourish their ignored or forgotten souls. These callings come from the examples they set to encourage others on the path of light. That is why the clock chimes every hour. So the people of the third stage are always encouraging others to come onto the path of the light and rise higher. Cyrus said it, let's look at one more and the final symbol of the grandfather clock, which is one of the most important ones. He said this symbol is time. Time is unseen. In stage 2, the droplets from the tap symbolize singular focus. The droplets from the dripping tap are visible to the human eye. In stage 3, the ticking clock also symbolizes singular focus, but the time that it represents from its ticking is unseen. Therefore, stage 3 is the gateway from the seen to the unseen. And Cyrus asked me, he said, can you explain how one transitions from the seen to the unseen? I replied, this transition occurs with the opening of the third eye. We've done a full class on the third eye, so please do go back and review this video. It is called How to Access the Third Eye. At stage 3, we come back to the parable of light in almost every one of the symbols of the grandfather clock. We come back to the spiritual umbilical cord, which starts from the niche in the center of the forehead. My dear friends, the third eye resides at this niche. Our two human eyes can only see with very limited vision in 3 dimensions. Everything outside of this limited capacity is unseen. The third eye, on the other hand, has infinite vision and infinite dimensions. It is a very powerful aspect that each one of us possesses. So let us expand this concept a little further. Let's try and understand it. When we talked about the parable of light the first time, I mentioned that according to the scriptures, when the Creator formed us, He formed us from clay. And clay includes water, because without water you cannot shape anything. So clay is pointless without water. So He formed us from clay and water. Then He breathed His light into the water in the clay. This is the luminous water or the luminous oil, which is referenced in the parable of light. Lit by the oil of the sacred tree, this oil is well nigh luminous, even though fire has scarcely touched it. So it is the luminous fluid we are going to explore further here. And when one looks through the third eye, what does one see? How can we describe what one sees? It's almost impossible. But I'm going to share an analogy with you that might help. You fill a glass with clear spring water. Take a glass, it's filled with clear spring water. And when you look at the glass, you can see the water, right? So this is the level of the seen, because you can see the water in the glass. It is evident in stages 1 and 2 of the soul, because you are looking at the water. Therefore, you are in the stage of the seen. You will see the water. In stage 3, your vantage point changes with the opening of the third eye. In stage 3, your eyes are now in the water, in the glass of water. You are no longer looking at the water. You are looking from within the water. you are looking through the water, in inverted commas, through the water. When you look through the water, do you see the water anymore? No, you don't. Even though you know the water is there. You know it is there, but the water is now unseen because your eyes are in the water. Just like in this world, you cannot see air because your eyes are in the air. I wrote a saying many years ago, you are the fish that swims in the ocean, yet it is water that you seek. You are the fish that swims in the ocean, yet it is water that you seek. You live in the being of your Creator, yet it is the light of your Creator you seek. You already have it, but you're still looking, you're still seeking. So, same way, here it's a vantage point. Now coming back to the glass of water. You can see through this water, if your eyes are in it, because it is crystal clear. If it were cloudy or dirty, you could not see through it. Hence, if your being were filled with negativity and dirt, you would not make it to the third stage. Plain and simple. We have to get rid of negativity and dirt if we want to get to the third stage. Otherwise, you cannot see through the water. At the third stage, you are at complete clarity. Hence, your eyes can see from within the water. It can see through the water. Now, if we replace the spring water with the luminous fluid, what do we see? You are now seeing through a fluid of light. What you see now is light, pure light that makes the water luminous. My dear friends, this is what you see when your third eye opens. Pure clarity of being, light, pure light. At the third stage, you have achieved the shift in vantage point from the seen to the unseen. And remember, at that vantage point, you can see the entire universes and beyond. See? So it's where your eyes are sitting. And the third eye opens it all for you. So what happens next? The opening of the third eye shows us the past with complete clarity. The past from this lifetime, which is our memories, as well as all the lifetimes that the soul has journeyed through. Apart from experiences and learnings, the past also reveals all the accumulated knowledge and light, as well as a full picture of the accumulated karma. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to go back and relive the past and previous lives. No. What it means is that we have to recognize that in order to move ahead, we have to, number one, offer gratitude to our past, all our past, gratitude for all the experiences and knowledge. Number two, seek forgiveness from the past, the entire past. Seek forgiveness from the past, the entire past. Forgive the past, the entire past. This is very difficult, but forgive the past, the entire past. Then, when we have done that, we can seek help from the Creator to detach ourselves completely from the past in a state of peaceful resolution within the soul. None of us can go back and change anything, but we can seek and pray for its resolution. We can pray for complete dissolution of everything, including our karma. At the third stage, we can achieve dissolution of all our karma, and our karmic compass is now set on the karma of enlightenment. Our sole purpose from here on is to focus on rising through stages 4 and beyond towards complete enlightenment. Please revisit the videos on the classes on how to understand karma and its resolution, and the one entitled How to Decipher Deja Vu. Both these videos offer a deeper understanding of the karma of enlightenment, so please view them. In stage 3, when the karma is dissolved, it marks an end of a chapter of the soul's journey. Remember, Cyrus said turning point, pivotal point, transition. So at that dissolution of the karma, It marks the beginning of a new phase of the soul's journey, because now it's based on karma of enlightenment. Like a new birth, which occurs in stage 4. The stage 4 is the one with the children playing in the playground, the innocence, the new birth. So you've dissolved your karma, closed that chapter, embarked on the next phase with the karma of enlightenment, which will bring events in your life that will help you rise from stage to stage. Events that may be very difficult, events that may be very challenging. But with the use of our intellect, we will create enlightening experiences and grow like a leaf did, in leaps and bounds, up the stages. And all this happens when both hands of the grandfather clock converge at the third eye, at the number 12. But in fact, the number 12, that number is not really 12. It is 0, absolute 0 in the spiritual clock. When all the clock's hands meet here, the soul is ready to transition to level 4. So in conclusion, my dear friends, most souls, young and old, keep coming to stages 1 and 2 to accomplish their karmic learning. When this is achieved, they rise to stage 3, the gateway that leads to the karmic dissolution and beginning of a new karma of enlightenment. It's a new birth in that journey. The lessons that come on this karmic journey of enlightenment are not easy by any measure. Remember, at the 8th stage of the orchestra, it is one of total harmony, of zero conflict, which is hard to even fathom as humans, very difficult to achieve. But the good news is that the karma of enlightenment opens up a completely new set of experiences to learn and grow with from stage 4 and beyond. It is my most humble and sincere prayer that each one of you be blessed with immense spiritual growth, that you may become beacons of light in the marketplace to inspire others, and that you may ascend in this lifetime all the way to the 10th stage and ultimate completion of your journey. And with that, I would like to conclude today's session. We're just under an hour, which is excellent. And there is so much to think about, so we will try and release the voice file or video fairly soon of this class. And in conclusion, I also want to thank each one of you for being here today, for bringing your light, bringing your positivity. And I pray that each one of you be blessed with the light of the Creator always be with you, to help you, guide you, protect you, and love you. Stay blessed, and then when in a month's time we will be there with stage 4, and you have so much to think about. So many pointers have come out in stages 1, 2, and 3. Implement them, and you can grow very, very fast. So stay blessed always. Thank you.